What will you eat for breakfast?
I will eat bread and butter.
When will you wake up?
I will wake up at 7 a.m.
How will you go to school?
I will walk to school.
What will you wear tomorrow?
I will wear a t-shirt and jeans.
When will you take a break?
I will take a break at 10 a.m.
What will you do after school?
I will play with my friends.
When will you do your homework?
I will do it at 5 p.m.
What will you watch on TV?
I will watch a cartoon.
When will you go to bed?
I will go to bed at 9 p.m.
What will you drink before sleeping?
I will drink milk.
Where will you go on holiday?
I will go to the beach.
When will you leave?
I will leave on Saturday.
How will you travel?
I will travel by car.
Who will go with you?
My family will go with me.
What will you pack?
I will pack clothes and shoes.
Where will you stay?
I will stay in a hotel.
What will you see?
I will see the ocean.
When will you come back?
I will come back next week.
What will you buy?
I will buy a hat.
What will you eat?
I will eat ice cream.
What will you do at school tomorrow?
I will study math.
When will you finish school?
I will finish at 3 p.m.
How will you go to work?
I will take the bus.
Who will help you with your homework?
My friend will help me.
Will you study tonight?
Yes, I will study for 1 hour.
What will you learn in class?
I will learn about animals.
Where will you sit in class?
I will sit near the window.
When will you take a test?
I will take a test next week.
How will you prepare for the test?
I will read my book.
What will you do after the test?
I will relax.
What will you do with your family?
I will watch a movie.
Where will you go with your friends?
I will go to the park.
When will you visit your grandparents?
I will visit them on Sunday.
Who will cook dinner?
My mom will cook dinner.
What will you eat with your family?
I will eat rice and chicken.
Will you play with your brother?
Yes, I will play with him.
What will you give your friend?
I will give a gift.
Where will you meet your friend?
I will meet at the cafe.
When will you call your cousin?
I will call her tonight.
How will you celebrate your birthday?
I will have a party.
What will you draw?
I will draw a flower.
Where will you play football?
I will play at the park.
When will you read a book?
I will read before bed.
How will you learn to dance?
I will watch videos.
Who will teach you to swim?
My dad will teach me.
Will you play a game?
Yes, I will play a board game.
What will you watch on YouTube?
I will watch funny videos.
Where will you ride your bike?
I will ride in the park.
When will you take photos?
I will take photos on Sunday.
What will you listen to?
I will listen to music.
What will you eat to stay healthy?
I will eat fruits and vegetables.
Where will you exercise?
I will exercise at home.
When will you go for a walk?
I will go in the evening.
How will you stay strong?
I will do push-ups.
Who will go jogging with you?
My friend will go with me.
Will you drink water?
Yes, I will drink a lot of water.
What will you do to relax?
I will take a nap.
Where will you play sports?
I will play at the school field.
When will you visit the doctor?
I will visit next week.
How will you sleep better?
I will go to bed early.
What will you buy at the store?
I will buy milk and bread.
Where will you shop for clothes?
I will shop at the mall.
When will you go shopping?
I will go on Saturday.
How will you pay?
I will pay with cash.
Who will go shopping with you?
My mom will go with me.
Will you buy a new shirt?
Yes, I will buy a blue shirt.
What will you cook for dinner?
I will cook pasta.
Where will you eat lunch?
I will eat at a restaurant.
When will you bake a cake?
I will bake it on Sunday.
What will you drink?
I will drink orange juice.
What will you do if it rains?
I will stay inside.
Where will you go if it's sunny?
I will go to the beach.
When will you wear a jacket?
I will wear it in winter.
How will you stay warm?
I will drink hot tea.
Who will play in the snow with you?
My sister will play with me.
Will you go swimming in summer?
Yes, I will swim in the pool.
What will you do in spring?
I will plant flowers.
Where will you go in autumn?
I will go to the forest.
When will you use an umbrella?
I will use it when it rains.
How will you enjoy the weather?
I will sit outside.
What will you do with your phone?
I will call my friend.
Where will you charge your laptop?
I will charge it in my room.
When will you use the computer?
I will use it after school.
How will you watch a movie?
I will watch it on my tablet.
Who will help you with your phone?
My brother will help me.
Will you buy a new camera?
Yes, I will buy one next month.
What will you do with your old TV?
I will give it to my cousin.
Where will you buy a new gadget?
I will buy it online.
When will you play a video game?
I will play on the weekend.
How will you learn to use the app?
I will read the instructions.
What will you do next weekend?
I will visit my grandparents.
Where will you go next month?
I will go to the zoo.
When will you start a new hobby?
I will start next week.
How will you save money?
I will save a little every week.
Who will help you with your project?
My teacher will help me.
Will you learn to drive?
Yes, I will learn next year.
What will you do in the future?
I will travel the world.
Where will you live?
I will live in a big city.
When will you get a pet?
I will get one next summer.
How will you help others?
I will volunteer at a shelter.
What will you do in the morning?
I will brush my teeth and wash my face.
When will you have lunch?
I will have lunch at 12 p.m.
How will you go to the park?
I will walk to the park.
What will you do in the evening?
I will watch TV and relax.
When will you clean your room?
I will clean it on Saturday.
What will you wear to the party?
I will wear a nice dress.
Where will you go after school?
I will go to the library.
When will you take a shower?
I will take a shower at 8 p.m.
What will you do before bed?
I will read a book.
How will you wake up early?
I will set an alarm.
What will you do at the beach?
I will swim and build sand castles.
Where will you take photos?
I will take photos near the sea.
When will you visit the mountains?
I will visit next summer.
How will you travel to the city?
I will take the train.
Who will carry the bags?
My dad will carry the bags.
Will you buy souvenirs?
Yes, I will buy a keychain.
What will you eat on the trip?
I will eat sandwiches and fruit.
Where will you sleep?
I will sleep in a tent.
When will you go camping?
I will go camping next month.
How will you enjoy the trip?
I will take lots of photos.
What will you do at work tomorrow?
I will write emails and make calls.
When will you finish your project?
I will finish it next week.
How will you go to the office?
I will take the subway.
Who will sit next to you in class?
My friend will sit next to me.
Will you study for the exam?
Yes, I will study every day.
What will you learn in science class?
I will learn about plants.
Where will you do your homework?
I will do it at the kitchen table.
When will you ask the teacher a question?
I will ask after class.
How will you prepare for the presentation?
I will practice in front of the mirror.
What will you do after school?
I will play soccer with my friends.
What will you do with your sister?
I will play a game with her.
Where will you meet your friends?
I will meet them at the cafe.
When will you visit your aunt?
I will visit her next weekend.
Who will help you with the cooking?
My mom will help me.
Will you call your grandparents?
Yes, I will call them tonight.
What will you give your mom for her birthday?
I will give her flowers.
Where will you have a picnic?
I will have it in the park.
When will you play with your cousin?
I will play with him on Sunday.
How will you celebrate your friend's birthday?
I will bring a cake.
What will you do with your family on Sunday?
We will go to the zoo.
What will you draw next?
I will draw a house.
Where will you play basketball?
I will play at the school court.
When will you start painting?
I will start next week.
How will you learn to play the piano?
I will take lessons.
Who will teach you to skate?
My uncle will teach me.
Will you watch a movie tonight?
Yes, I will watch a comedy.
What will you listen to on the radio?
I will listen to music.
Where will you ride your scooter?
I will ride it in the park.
When will you take a dance class?
I will take it next month.
What will you do with your free time?
I will read a book.
What will you eat for a healthy snack?
I will eat an apple.
Where will you go for a run?
I will run in the park.
When will you drink water?
I will drink it after exercise.
How will you stay fit?
I will walk every day.
Who will go to the gym with you?
My friend will go with me.
Will you play a sport?
Yes, I will play tennis.
What will you do to relax?
I will listen to music.
Where will you do yoga?
I will do it at home.
When will you visit the doctor?
I will visit next Monday.
How will you sleep better?
I will go to bed early.
What will you buy at the supermarket?
I will buy milk and eggs.
Where will you buy a new shirt?
I will buy it at the mall.
When will you go shopping?
I will go on Friday.
How will you pay for the groceries?
I will pay with cash.
Who will help you carry the bags?
My brother will help me.
Will you buy a new pair of shoes?
Yes, I will buy black shoes.
What will you cook for lunch?
I will cook rice and vegetables.
Where will you eat dinner?
I will eat at home.
When will you bake cookies?
I will bake them on Saturday.
What will you drink with your meal?
I will drink water.
What will you do if it snows?
I will make a snowman.
Where will you go if it's hot?
I will go to the pool.
When will you wear a scarf?
I will wear it in winter.
How will you stay cool in summer?
I will drink cold water.
Who will play in the rain with you?
My sister will play with me.
Will you go for a walk in spring?
Yes, I will walk in the park.
What will you do in autumn?
I will collect leaves.
Where will you go in winter?
I will go skiing.
When will you use a fan?
I will use it in summer.
How will you enjoy the sunny weather?
I will sit in the garden.
What will you do with your tablet?
I will watch videos.
Where will you charge your phone?
I will charge it in my room.
When will you use the computer?
I will use it after dinner.
How will you watch a movie?
I will watch it on my laptop.
Who will help you with your tablet?
My dad will help me.
Will you buy a new camera?
Yes, I will buy one next year.
What will you do with your old phone?
I will give it to my brother.
Where will you buy a new gadget?
I will buy it at the electronics store.
When will you play a video game?
I will play on the weekend.
How will you learn to use the app?
I will ask my friend.
What will you do next weekend?
I will visit my grandparents.
Where will you go next month?
I will go to the zoo.
When will you start a new hobby?
I will start next week.
How will you save money?
I will save a little every week.
Who will help you with your project?
My teacher will help me.
Will you learn to drive?
Yes, I will learn next year.
What will you do in the future?
I will travel the world.
Where will you live?
I will live in a big city.
When will you get a pet?
I will get one next summer.
How will you help others?
I will volunteer at a shelter.
Where will you park your car?
I will park it in the garage.
When will you fill up the gas tank?
I will fill it up tomorrow.
How will you go to the airport?
I will take the subway.
What will you do if the train is late?
I will wait at the station.
Where will you buy a bus ticket?
I will buy it at the counter.
When will you learn to drive?
I will learn next year.
What will you do if you get lost?
I will ask for directions.
How will you travel to another city?
I will travel by train.
What will you do on the airplane?
I will read a book.
What will you do at your new job?
I will answer phone calls and emails.
When will you start your new job?
I will start next Monday.
How will you prepare for the interview?
I will practice answering questions.
Who will help you with your resume?
My friend will help me.
What will you wear to the interview?
I will wear a suit.
Where will you work in the future?
I will work in an office.
When will you ask for a promotion?
I will ask in 6 months.
What will you do if you get a bonus?
I will save the money.
How will you improve your skills?
I will take online courses.
What will you do after work?
I will relax at home.
What will you buy at the market?
I will buy fruits and vegetables.
Where will you shop for clothes?
I will shop at the mall.
When will you go shopping?
I will go on Saturday.
How will you pay for your groceries?
I will pay with cash.
Who will go shopping with you?
My mom will go with me.
What will you buy for your friend?
I will buy a gift.
Where will you buy a new phone?
I will buy it at the electronics store.
When will you buy a new dress?
I will buy it next week.
What will you do if the store is closed?
I will come back tomorrow.
How will you carry your shopping bags?
I will use a trolley.
What sport will you play tomorrow?
I will play soccer.
Where will you play basketball?
I will play at the school court.
When will you watch the game?
I will watch it on Sunday.
How will you practice for the match?
I will practice every day.
Who will play with you?
My friends will play with me.
What will you do if it rains during the game?
I will wait until it stops.
Where will you sit during the match?
I will sit near the front.
When will you buy new sports shoes?
I will buy them next month.
What will you do after the game?
I will drink water and rest.
How will you celebrate if your team wins?
I will cheer and clap.
What will you play on the piano?
I will play a simple song.
Where will you practice singing?
I will practice at home.
When will you attend a concert?
I will attend next weekend.
How will you learn to play the guitar?
I will watch online tutorials.
Who will teach you to dance?
My sister will teach me.
What will you draw in art class?
I will draw a landscape.
Where will you display your artwork?
I will display it in my room.
When will you listen to your favorite song?
I will listen to it tonight.
What will you do at the music festival?
I will dance and sing along.
How will you improve your painting skills?
I will practice every day.
What will you eat for a healthy breakfast?
I will eat oatmeal and fruit.
Where will you go for a checkup?
I will go to the clinic.
When will you start exercising?
I will start next week.
How will you stay hydrated?
I will drink water regularly.
Who will go jogging with you?
My friend will go with me.
What will you do to relax?
I will meditate for 10 minutes.
Where will you take a yoga class?
I will take it at the community center.
When will you visit the dentist?
I will visit next month.
What will you do if you feel sick?
I will take medicine and rest.
How will you improve your sleep?
I will go to bed early.